Hi, everybody, and welcome to Strategic Internet Public Relations. And this month, we are doing things that I think you're going to find quite exciting. In week one, and by the way, December, this is the month of December. And December is always tricky because we're still in November. We're usually dealing with Thanksgiving, and then we've got Christmas holidays and the days off and time off for the Christmas holiday breathing on us on the back end. So this is always a very interesting month, but I hope to make it as interesting as possible. So first, let me welcome you back. As you know, I'm Dr. John, and this month we're going to take a look at public relations from a strategic standpoint. Now, in order to do that, we need to understand what public relations is, and then some of the tools that we need to use. In particular, we're going to look at we're going to talk about monitoring. We're going to talk about press releases. We're going to talk about what you do with the press release. And then we're also going to talk about how to handle a public relations crisis. Now, wrapped in all that is then how do we get the maximum leverage out of our communications through digital marketing techniques. And this course is really the umbrella course that new media marketing sits under, because as we discussed in new media marketing is earned media. We're having to gain the trust. There may be some payments, but we're having to gain the trust of those people that we want to tell our story. The same is true here. And for as big as digital marketing is, public relations continues to be a very strong presence in the marketing arena. In fact, there are many agencies that lead with public relations and then follow up with other marketing activities. At the very least, public relations and marketing and advertising promotion need to go hand in hand. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. So first, let me tell you that in week one, I've given you a number of discussion questions to take a look at. No assignment, but as you can tell by the rubrics, I'm looking for real graduate level work. I'm looking for rigor in terms of you not just responding to what's on the top of your mind, but I want an academic discussion with regard to those topics. I happen to think discussions are one of the ways that we learn the best. Why? Because you get to drive where the discussion goes, number one. Number two, this is where you can challenge your thinking, you can challenge your classmates' thinking, and you can even challenge my thinking. Although I try to stay kind of on the sidelines a little bit. At any rate, you're going to have, and what I did, by the way, is I extended some time so that you've actually got till Wednesday, which is tomorrow at 11:59, to get all your first week in, because of the challenges with the days off around the holiday. So if you already submitted something and you want to come back and redo it, that's fine. If you're happy with what you got, that's great. If you missed a couple deadlines and you want to go back, you can do that too. Okay, so week one really sets the stage and gets us into the mindset of public relations. Week two, this week coming, you're going to be writing a press release. Now, let me take a step back one more time, because what I want to talk about is your case study company. Your case study company, I'm not interested in what your case study company is actually doing. I'm interested in knowing what your case study would do, your case study company would do, if you were the CEO, if you were the chief marketing officer, or any other role in the marketing labor chain. You use your case study strictly as a framework so that you have items to talk about. I want to know what you would be doing if you were one of the executives leading that organization. So in week two, you're going to write a press release. What are you going to write a press release on? Well, let's talk about what press releases are for. A press release is designed to get somebody else to tell our story. So the question is, what story do we want them to tell? The reality is, it could be anything. In week one, you were introduced to Edward Bernays and some of the antics that Edward Bernays came up with, and some of the concepts around pseudo events. So a pseudo event is an event that's contrived in order so that people can talk about it. For example, you'll see companies, you'll see political candidates, you'll see newspapers. Everybody likes to do surveys. Why? They do surveys because it gives them something to write about. And many times, because statistics are something that you can bend any way that you want, the outcome of those surveys is usually predetermined before the survey is even given to the first individual. So all they're doing is looking for data. Now, interestingly enough, social media is kind of used that way too. Why? Because there is a diversity of opinions out there with regard to what people are expressing on social media. So if I want to write a story and I have a particular point of view that I'm looking for, I can simply go to Twitter or Facebook. Twitter's probably easier. And I can search Twitter for exactly what I'm looking for, and I may have 5 or 6 people, maybe more, show up with comments that are supportive of the point of view that I want to offer. What I have just done is created a pseudo event, and I've done it by using social media. In other words, we can use pseudo events to tell whatever story we want to tell. Think about that for a moment. A pseudo event is something that we can pull off the shelf, use it to tell a story, put it back on the shelf, and 6 months later, pull it back off, tweak it a little bit, and we've got a new story. That's what pseudo events are, and that's how they're used in public relations. Now, let me ask you a trick question. What's the difference between propaganda and public relations? What if I were to tell you that up until 1924, everything was propaganda? In fact, the term public relations didn't come into being until Edward Bernays coined the phrase public relations counselor to describe the work that he and his compatriots did when they were part of Woodrow Wilson's. Woodrow Wilson was the president that was elected in 1913. Or was it 1912? 1912. And Woodrow Wilson, who previously had been president of Princeton University, found the United States at the threshold of World War I and needed to move us into a wartime footing. And so he created a propaganda unit that was known as the Committee of Public Information. It was led by a gentleman by the name of George Creel, and one of his key lieutenants was Edward Bernays, who later, after World War I, moved into the private sector and began his practice as a public relations counselor. And in fact, today is known as not only the father of public relations, but the father of modern day marketing. Pretty impressive. Bernays, by the way, now you may be thinking, when was Woodrow Wilson president? 1912, I said, right? Long time ago. And you're probably saying, well, how long when did Edward Bernays do all this stuff? Edward Bernays was born in 1892 and died in 1995. If you do the math, that's 103 years. And let me tell you how profound and vigorous Edward Bernays was. If you search YouTube, you'll actually find where Edward Bernays appeared not once, but twice on the David Letterman show. Okay. So for those of you that remember David Letterman, who's no longer on, but was on for many years, you'll be amazed to know that Eddie Bernays was actually on the show 2 different times. And so his lifetime was huge, and he had impact almost up until the moment that he passed away at 103. Okay, so we've talked about pseudo events. Let's talk about the press release. I've got a a training video that tells you exactly everything you need in terms of how to go through and create a press release. I want to tell you what I think are the most important parts. You got to have a great headline that describes an event, either a real event or a pseudo event. Then your next paragraph, that first paragraph, it's got to answer all the questions that a journalist would have. And what are the questions that a journalist would ask? You know these. It's who, what, when, where, why, how. Those questions are the foundation of journalism. And in that first paragraph, you want to answer all those questions for anybody that might be looking at the press release and wanting to write a story. Now, here's the trap that many marketers, many digital marketers in our program fall into. They start thinking about the press release as a piece of advertising, and they write the press release in order to sell a service, an idea, or a product. That is not what the press release is for. The press release is to get somebody else to tell that story. And you have to do it in a very specific format, which is why there's certain rules. So, that first paragraph, what I usually do is I'll take a piece of paper and I'll write out who, what, why, when, where, how, and I'll answer those questions around my event or my pseudo event. I'll then take those answers and try and build it into 3 or 4 lines of text. Notice I didn't say sentences. One of the important things about a press release is that it looks like it's very readable. And the reason for that is editors and people that you're delivering press releases to, they probably see upwards of 100 or more press releases on a daily basis. You want something that they look at that grabs their attention. That's the headline, that's formatted properly, and they read the first paragraph and they say, I got it, I like it. And then hopefully they'll read the rest. But if they look at it and it looks like homework that they're going to have to read through and try and figure out what's going on, it's going to go in the discard pile. And that's what you don't want. Okay? So that's weeks 1 and 2 in a nutshell. I hope you have a great month this month. My phone number, you should know, 407-267-8600. Look, if you got any sort of question, text me or call me. If I can't take the call, I will call you back as soon as possible, and I'll usually text you to let you know that. If for some reason you don't hear from me, something went wrong. Okay? And if you text me, I usually, again, respond to those almost immediately. And if I don't, something went wrong, so reach out again. And if you reach out in the same manner and I'm still not getting the message and I'm not getting back to you, then try something else. But by far and above, 407-267-8600 will get my attention. Why? That's my personal cell. I'm giving you my personal cell. And you've got access to me. I'm going to get back to you. All right, everybody. I want you to have a great month so that you have a great holiday in December. No matter what you celebrate, I want you to have a great holiday in December. And again, 407-267-8600. This is Dr. John. Take care.